It shouldn't worther. A sleek, steel-blue vessel adrift in the boundless ocean, cloaked from radar and as silent as the moving tides. To American Navy, it became a ghost, an enigma that confounded each protocol, every recognized rule of the ocean. What began as a ordinary interception translator fast spiraled right into a harrowing descent into the unknown. Inside that otherworldly craft lay something no one became prepared to stand. Secrets so dark, so far past human knowledge, they might shatter the solve of even the maximum seasoned sailors. This wasn't only a thriller. This became the begin of a nightmare. The silent vessel, .at. At first, it looked like a tiny speck, almost mixing in with the waves. They nearly exceeded it by a wave almost, but one of the group contributors pointed it out. "Guys, there's something within the water over there," he said, and as they approached, the something revealed itself to be a ways larger than they'd expected. Then came the first twist. Their radar. It didn't choose up the boat in any respect. The screen most effective confirmed their personal vessel, as though the unusual silent craft didn't even exist. It wasn't just the unnerving size or its seamless blue sheen, which seemed to camouflage it flawlessly with the ocean. The thriller ran deeper. Why wasn't it showing up? The captain checked the radar once more. Same result. Just their deliver. Yet the boat was undeniably there, floating right in the front of them. That was while Ross, the crew, decided to make contact. "Coastal Protect right here," they known as out. "If there's every person on board, please respond." Over and over, their calls went unanswered. No response. No motion. Nothing. Tension started out to creep in. Who or what turned into inside? Desperate for solutions, the group decided to carry the vessel nearer. They threw a rope, its heavy hook catching the edge of the blue craft. It appeared conceivable, something their combined power could easily pull in. But the instant they started out to tug, truth hit them like a tidal wave. The boat didn't flow, not even an inch. It became as though it became anchored to the sea ground, or worse, being held by using something unseen, something powerful. Now, what they notion might be an easy retrieval became a chilling attention. This wasn't simply any boat. No count number how hard the coastal guards pulled. The enigmatic vessel stood on the corporation, almost like it was rooted to the sea itself. And then, to their surprise, they started out to transport. Slowly, their very own boat commenced to go with the flow, forward, dragged in the direction of the mysterious craft. "What is this issue?" The captain's voice trembled as he watched the scene unfold. One of the crew participants muttered beneath his breath, "This is more complex than it appears. We're likely simply seeing the top of the iceberg." His phrases were ominous and, as it turned out, painfully accurate. But there wasn't time to dwell on it. This case demanded motion. The captain ordered him and any other crew member to investigate. The crewman Brendan felt a knot tighten in his belly. He wasn't positive if it turned into fear or intuition, or both, but he knew he couldn't allow his team down. With each eye on him, he climbed onto the deck of the blue boat, shifting carefully, his boots clanging towards the metallic floor. His companion John accompanied close in the back of, and collectively they crept toward the tiny, dirt-blanketed windows. Brendan wiped at the glass, but it turned into little need. The view inside became murky, nearly pitch black. They exchanged a look. Whatever changes inside, they weren't going to examine something standing there. Brendan exhaled slowly, steadying his nerves. "We ought to open it," he stated, his voice barely above a whisper. John nodded, and collectively they grew to become their attention to the boat's pinnacle hatch. The steel groaned in protest as they'd driven the hatch open, revealing a staircase descending into the darkness underneath. The air seemed chillier now, heavy with an unsettling silence. Brendan and John hesitated, peering down into the shadows. The staircase disappeared into blackness, the lowest hidden from sight. Both men instinctively became to their captain, silently hoping for a reprieve. But the vintage sailor honestly motioned for them to hold. "We're proper here," he referred to as out. "Go in advance." Brendan swallowed difficult and retrieved a flashlight from his pocket. Its beam sliced via the darkness as he took the primary cautious step downward, followed carefully by means of John. The air inside the ship became stale, damp, and packed with a faint metal tang. Each step echoed hollowly, amplifying their developing feel of unease. When they eventually reached the bottom, Brendan swept the flashlight around, illuminating the indoors. What they noticed made their stomachs sink. The interior of the ship became in whole disarray, a long way extra dilapidated than its deceptively sleek outdoors cautioned. The walls had been bare metallic, corroded and scratched, with wires dangling loosely from the ceiling. John's voice cut through the silence. Who changed into piloting this factor? There's nobody right here. The beam of the flashlight fell on a central console, dusty and battered, its controls looking more historical than operational. Aside from that, the ship changed into eerily empty, without any signs of life. The emptiness wasn't comforting, it was haunting. The two men exchanged uneasy glances, the weight of the unknown urging down on them. Neither of them knew it yet, but entering into that ghostly vessel became a decision they could come to remorse deeply. Brendan grabbed his walkie-talkie, trying to relay what they'd observed to the team out of doors. But the connection changed into terrible. Static crackled, and his words slightly made it through. Whatever he managed to say was distorted, barely understandable. And then matters went from unsettling to outright terrifying. Whatever was going on inside that cage was realistic. Outside. Above them, there had been a loud creak. Before they could react, the top hatch slammed close on its own. The noise reverberated via the vessel like a gunshot, leaving Brendan and John frozen in shock. Outside, at the coastal boat, the relaxation of the group stared in horror as they watched the hatch near. Panic set in, because the captain and his crew frantically tried to touch Brendan and John, but the closed hatch completely reduced off the signal. Inside, Brendan and John were on their own. No backup, no way to speak. And that changed into just the beginning. Moments later, the blue boat started to vibrate violently. The unexpected movement threw each guy's off balance, and they scrambled up the ladder, trying to make feel of what became taking place. They controlled to reach the pinnacle and seamed out, their faces faded with dread as they noticed their coastal vessel in the distance. "What on this planet is taking place?" Brendan muttered, his voice tinged with panic. But the solution got here quickly, and it wasn't one they wanted. The blue boat wasn't staying at the floor, it turned into descending. Slowly at the start, then greater hastily sinking into the sea's depths. John's eyes widened, his voice breaking as he yelled, "We're going below!" Brendan grabbed his arm, trying to regular him. "John, loosen up. We're now not sinking. This factor isn't taking on water." But John wasn't shopping for it. "If it's no longer sinking, then what's it? Who's doing this?" His phrases had been frantic, full of a worry that Brendan couldn't pre-shake himself. Still, Brendan tried to stay composed. They banged their fists in opposition to the steel hatch, attempting desperately to pressure it open, however it wouldn't budge. Their panic grew as the boat persisted to descend, plunging deeper and deeper till they were absolutely submerged. Darkness surrounded them, the distant mime hum of the surface fading away. And then it hit Brendan. This wasn't just a boat. It became a submarine. John's face twisted with the realization, nodding grimly. Submarine, however? What kind of submarine? Knowing didn't assist their dire scenario, though. They were trapped, cut off, and absolutely powerless. Desperately, they attempted to use their conversation gadgets to touch the principal boat. However, it changed into useless. The signal turned into absolutely lifeless. Brendan's mind raced back to the instant they'd first noticed the blue deliver. It was stealthy, a long way too stealthy. Its metallic blue color had mixed seamlessly with the water, masking it from sight. And then there was the radar. It hadn't shown up in any respect. Now, trapped underneath the sea on this ghostly, unresponsive vessel, Brendan couldn't assist but surprise. Changed into this stealth intentional? And if so, why? The questions hung heavy inside the air, unanswered, as the mysterious submarine endured its creepy descent into the unknown. The submarine's secret. What turned into this submarine used for? That became the question gnawing at Brendan and John as the vessel persisted its mysterious journey. It wasn't lengthy before they found out they had been headed towards a few unknown destination, one that seemed to carry severe and likely risky repercussions. But for now, all they could do changed into wait. With nothing else to occupy their time, the two coastal guards determined to look the submarine for clues. Maybe, simply maybe, they could figure out what they were stuck up in earlier than it changed into too overdue. The first place they examined became the main console at the submarine's north aspect. Consecratum Nimbos concluded that the Patriarch, the system appeared Lovett turned into ripped immediately out of an 80s sci-fi movie, with thick buttons, flickering lights, and a multitude of tangled cables spilling out from the return. It felt vintage, clunky, nearly too old to control whatever of importance. Brendan shook his head. "This doesn't seem to do whatever," he muttered. But then John's voice broke via the silence. "Hey, over right here, there's a door!" Brendan grew to become around, his eyes narrowing as he spotted what John turned into pointing to. Brendan had no sooner observed it, a massive, ominous entryway on the alternative side of the submarine, its surface gleaming under the dim light. A heavy industrial deal-with protruded from the door, looking as if it can seal off a vault. "What's in the back of there?" John puzzled aloud. Brendan had no solutions. The simplest thing to do changed into to attempt to open it. Together, the two guys grabbed the deal with their muscular tissues straining as they driven and pulled with the whole thing they had, but it became no use. The door wouldn't budge, just like the hatch above. Exhausted and defeated, they sank to the ground of the submarine, their breaths ragged. For a moment, the silence returned, that motionless handiest through the hum of the submarine's machinery. Then it got here once more, that deep, rumbling vibration, the same one they'd felt while the vessel first descended. But this time, some thing become one of a kid. "We're going up," Brendan stated, his voice tinged with unease. John scrambled to the closest window, peering out. "There's light!" he shouted, exhilaration flickering in his voice. Sunlight poured in through the small glass panel, marking their ascent again to the surface. But Brendan wasn't ready to rejoice. His gut advised him this wasn't over, not by an extended shot. When the submarine subsequently broke through the waves, a brand new sound stuffed the air. Heavy, planned thuds echoed from above. Footsteps. Someone, or something, had become approaching. "Run for cover!" Brendan hissed, snapping John out of his daze. Both guys sprang to their toes, darting at the back of the north console simply as the hatch above creaked open. They pressed themselves against the bloodless metallic slightly respirator as shadows danced on the partitions. Moments later, three figures descended into the submarine. Their moves were calm, planned, and unhurried. Without a lock as a look round, the strangers headed instantly for the locked door. The equal one Brendan and John were unable to open. The two guards exchanged a demanding glance. Who were these humans? And greater importantly, what had been there right here for? Brendan cautiously peered out from in the back of the console, his coronary heart pounding as he watched the men at work. They moved in and out of the submarine's sealed compartment with precision, emerging each time with heavy, mysterious objects in their arms. The hatch they'd fought so difficult to open seemed to offer no task to those strangers. Where had been they taking all of this? And what became this submarine's motive? Brendan's thoughts raced as he attempted to piece it together, but nothing made experience. For the subsequent 30 minutes, the two coastal guards stayed hidden, silently looking as the guys repeatedly carried their cargo to the floor. Brendan and John had been lucky they weren't stuck. However, even that didn't mean they had been secure.